Okay, so last one, quickly. We've talked about kind of Brodie in terms of kind of sexual repression, the depictions of that. What we haven't done is necessarily look at the way in which Spark depicts the grooming and whether she kind of condemns it or not. Now, again, think in that kind of comparative way as we kind of look at these kind of opening framing questions. So, how does the novel suggest Brodie's living vicariously through the girls? Does Spark suggest Brodie's consciously grooming the girls? Does the narrative condemn the grooming or does it underplay it? Have a think about those, and then we'll kind of go through them and use them to kind of frame the way that we look at these couple of extracts quickly. Right, so there is a sense that Brodie, in multiple different ways, not just through the grooming, lives through the girls in the novel. She encourages them to do the classical education so that she too can kind of learn the Greek alongside them. She can get them to teach her because she wasn't able to. We get a sense of her doing it in a romantic kind of context as well, because, as we mentioned before, she would be more of a kind of sexual threat to Teddy Lloyd's marriage. The girls would not be in such a same way. It's a very weird kind of depiction in which it's very uncomfortable because it's essentially, it is kind of paedophilic. It's an abuse of kind of trust, but there is that perception that because they're much younger than Teddy Lloyd, they would not kind of displace his wife. Does she suggest she's kind of conscious doing it? In the main, in the narrative, it does suggest kind of conscious effort, although there are a few bits that kind of call it into question whether the kind of length of time that Brodie has been kind of planning and preparing for this. But just like the History Boys, there's no real sense that, like Hector, she's kind of condemned for this. In the History Boys, Hector is saved, he's reprieved, it's actually Dakin who saves him. And then we've got in Brodie, the punishment that is kind of levelled to Brodie is around her kind of fascism. It is not connected to her sexual manipulation of the girls. There's a sense that a few points that what she's doing is wrong, but she's never ever punished for what she does. Right, okay, so again, we've only got 2 extracts this time, so either find them, have a look at them, see what you would make for them yourself with those kind of things in mind, but then I'll go through them in a moment. So if you want to pause me, if you don't. Right, okay. So, again, the omniscient narrative voice is important. The idea that it enters into Sandy's mind primarily, and it's, you know, Sandy is able to see things that the other girls are not. So this is kind of taken from the narrative voice's perspective, but it also enters into kind of Sandy's mind at various points. So the idea, it was plain, so the adjective here suggests it's obvious that Miss Brodie wants this to kind of happen. And she wants Rose with her instinct to prepare to be Teddy Lloyd's lover and Sandy to act as an informant. So Miss Brodie wanted, they had been chosen as the creme de la creme. Now, originally, the whole group, the whole set is the creme de la creme. The implication is that over time, Brodie has narrowed this. She's cut it down to these 2 girls because they are the ones that she kind of sees the best potential for in order to kind of fulfill her whims. You then get this interesting kind of metaphor that follows. There was a whiff of sulphur about the idea which fascinated Sandy in her present mind. Sulphur is associated with kind of hellfire and things like that, but it's only a whiff of sulphur. It's not this kind of strong smell of sulphur, but it does suggest that Sandy recognises that there's something perverse about what's happening. But at the same time, Sandy, who's ultimately the one who does have the affair, is fascinated by the psychology of this. Not horrified, but fascinated. After all, it was only an idea, and there was no pressing hurry in the matter, for Miss Brodie liked to take her leisure in the unfolding of her plans, most of her joy deriving from the preparation, and moreover, even if these plans were as clear to her own mind as they were to Sandy's, the girls were too young. So it suggests there are limits in what Brodie's doing. The girls at this stage are too young, although the preparation is going in. It suggests a kind of vicarious pleasure that Brodie is unable to, be with Lloyd herself. But again, that idea of using the girls as like a proxy come into this. And it's when the girl's kind of 16, Brodie was saying to her set at large, Sandy will make an excellent Secret Service agent, and then to Sandy alone, Rose will be a great lover. So it suggests that she's aware of an element of kind of wrongness that goes with this. It also suggests that there are, again, attempts by Muriel Spark to mitigate some elements of the wrongness. The idea that they're 16 at this point blurs this kind of line, because you're back in the 1930s. You've got kind of issues around kind of age of consent. It's only much later that you get more kind of stronger rules coming in around teachers and relationships with students. They're the key points from this one. So it suggests a level of preparation that Sandy is aware of, and a degree of kind of condemnation. You again in the second one that kind of follows shortly afterwards. From what you tell me, I should think that Rose and Teddy Lloyd will soon be lovers. Again, there's a sense of kind of Brodie looking ahead, imagining this kind of wanting this to happen. And Sandy has moved from thinking this might just be a theory and a kind of Brodie game into the actual kind of reality of this. It was not theory. Brodie meant it. And the bit that's in the middle here kind of reiterates it. People are always kind of thinking about the prospects of war. They wonder about kind of, if you take contemporary examples, Putin using nuclear weapons. People theorise about the kind of Chinese invasion of Taiwan and things like that. The kind of in the air like pigeons, pigeon could fly in any direction, this kind of uncertain pathway. And then you get the kind of need from Brodie. She's obsessed with the need. It's not a want, this is a need for Sandy to, Rose even to sleep with the man she herself was in love with. And again, we're in Sandy's mind, and the reality of this was new. Not the idea, but the reality that this is actually something that has got a genuine chance of happening. And then you get this kind of analeptic bit, the thought backwards. So the skipping back into the past of the novel. And Miss Brodie sitting under the elm tree, telling her first simple love story. And the implication that even maybe at this early stage, this is where Brodie's kind of aspiration comes from, because Brodie has lost Hugh in the war. She's essentially part of that kind of surplus generation, and the using the girls as the proxies becomes her only kind of choice here. So again, just another bit to think about in terms of the teacher's influence, abuse and things like